She bulldozed the beach of my private lake to build her own personal paradise. But what this HOA Karen didn't realize is that I own the entire lake bed, the shoreline, and the land her house is sitting on. I'd just bought my dream property, a massive, secluded plot of land with a beautiful private lake right in the middle. It was my slice of heaven, far from nosy neighbors and strict rules. Or so I thought. My property bordered a high-end gated community called Lakeside Estates. Their sales brochures boasted about lake views, which I always found funny since the lake was entirely on my land. A few weeks after I moved in, I was enjoying the morning quiet when I heard the unmistakable roar of heavy machinery. I walked down to the shore, and my jaw hit the floor. There she was, a woman I'd later come to know as Karen, directing a bulldozer as it tore up my pristine, natural beach. She was a middle-aged woman with a haircut you could set your watch to and an entitled smirk plastered across her face. I walked over, trying to keep my cool. "Excuse me," I said. "What do you think you're doing? This is private property." She barely glanced at me, waving her hand dismissively. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. I'm just making some improvements. The HOA agreed this area needed a little sprucing up. We're putting in a community dock and a nice, clean, sand-free patio." I was stunned. The HOA? The HOA has no authority here. This is my land. The property line is 50 feet past your back fence. She finally turned to face me, her eyes narrowing. "Listen," she sneered. "My husband is on the HOA board. We've lived here for 10 years. This has always been our lake access. We're just making it better for everyone. Now, if you'll excuse me, you're trespassing on Lakeside Estates community property." She pointed a perfectly manicured finger back the way I came. I tried to explain again, showing her the property markers on my phone's GPS map. She laughed in my face. "I'm not interested in your little phone games. This is our land. Now get off it before I call security." And with that, she turned her back and started barking orders at the bulldozer operator again. That was the moment I knew politeness was off the table. The destruction went on for the rest of the day. They ripped out native plants, leveled the natural slope of the shore, and started laying down a foundation of gravel and rebar. I documented everything with my drone, capturing high-resolution video of every violation. That evening, I received a certified letter. It was from the Lakeside Estates HOA, formally accusing me of harassment and attempting to block a community improvement project. It included a ridiculously inflated bill for landscaping survey and preparation, and a warning that if I interfered again, they would file for a restraining order and sue me for damages. They were actually trying to bill me for the destruction of my own property. The audacity was breathtaking. It started with anonymous notes left on the gate to my property, telling me to stop being selfish. Then came the formal complaints to the county about my unmaintained wildland, claiming it was a fire hazard. One morning, I found a line of orange plastic fencing erected along the shoreline, with a huge sign that read, "Future Site of the Lakeside Estates Yacht Club." A yacht club? On a 20-acre lake? It was delusional. But the final straw came when I saw their construction crew starting to pour concrete for a massive patio, right over the spot where a family of ducks used to nest. That was it. The gloves were off. It was time to remind these people what the words private property really meant. I spent the entire weekend not with lawyers, but with historians and county clerks. My property wasn't just a simple plot of land, it was one of the original homesteads in the area, dating back over a century. The deeds were ironclad and contained some very interesting historical details. I went to the county records office and pulled every single document related to the Lakeside Estates development. And that's when I found the jackpot. Buried deep in the original land survey from the 1980s, when the development was first planned, was a critical note. The developer had been unable to acquire the lake and a significant buffer zone around it. Instead, they had secured a limited scenic easement, which gave the homes a view of the lake, but absolutely no right of access, use, or modification. But here was the kicker. The document also showed that the developer had made a crucial surveying error. The plot of land that Karen's house was built on, a tiny but legally significant sliver of it, about 10 feet deep along the entire back of the property, wasn't part of Lakeside Estates at all. It was still part of my historical plot. Her fence, her manicured lawn, and even a corner of her house's foundation were sitting squarely on my land. I smiled. This was better than I could have ever imagined. I didn't just own the lake, I owned part of her home, so I hired a land surveyor to come out and mark the property lines officially, and I had a lawyer draft a series of documents that would deliver the final blow. The next Monday morning, Karen was out on her half-built concrete monstrosity, sipping a latte and bossing around her crew. She didn't notice the surveying team quietly and officially staking out the true property line. They hammered in bright pink-flagged steel rebar every 10 feet. The line ran right through her prize-winning rose bushes, across her pristine lawn, and clipped the corner of her master bedroom. Then I made my move. I walked over, no longer trying to be friendly. I handed her a thick envelope. "What's this?" she scoffed, not even looking at me. "That," I said calmly, "is a cease and desist order for the construction on my beach. It's also an eviction notice for the portion of your house, fence, and yard that are illegally built on my land. And finally, it's a bill for the full cost of restoring my shoreline to its natural state, plus damages." Her face went from smug to pale to furious in about 3 seconds. She ripped open the envelope, and her eyes darted across the legal documents, the official survey map, and the highlighted section of the original deed. Her jaw dropped. She started screaming, calling me a liar and a fraud. She whipped out her phone and called her husband, the HOA board member. He arrived a few minutes later, puffed up and ready for a fight. He took one look at the official survey markers, the legal paperwork, and the calm, unwavering look on my face, and all the color drained from his face. He knew they were caught. She screamed, "Call the police! He's trying to steal our house." I just stood there and waited. When the officers arrived, I calmly presented them with my certified land deeds and the brand new, legally filed survey. They looked at my papers, then at the markers, then at Karen's sputtering, screaming face. One of the officers turned to her and said, "Ma'am, it looks like this is a civil matter, and right now, you are trespassing on this gentleman's property." The look on her face was pure, unadulterated poetic justice. The HOA crumbled. Faced with irrefutable proof and the threat of a massive lawsuit, they immediately ordered all construction to stop. The yacht club sign came down that afternoon. Karen and her husband were forced to hire a demolition crew, at their own expense, to remove the half-built patio, the rebar, and every last bit of gravel from my beach. They had to pay a specialist ecological firm, which I chose, to restore the shoreline exactly to its previous state. The best part? The eviction notice? They had two choices: pay me an exorbitant monthly lease for the 10 feet of my land their house was on, or pay to have the corner of their house physically removed. They tried to fight it, but their lawyers told them they had zero chance of winning. They ended up paying a fortune to an engineering firm to slice off the corner of their master bedroom and rebuild the wall along the new, correct property line. The HOA was thrown into chaos when the other homeowners realized how badly the board had messed up and exposed them all to legal risk. There was a revolt. The entire board, including Karen's husband, was voted out in an emergency meeting. A few months later, a for sale sign went up in front of Karen's house, the house with the weird, freshly patched corner. They sold it at a significant loss and moved away. The new neighbors are wonderful. They sent me a bottle of wine and a card that said, "Thank you for being the owner of the lake. The lake is quiet again, the ducks have returned, and my beach is slowly healing." Sometimes justice isn't just about winning. It's about watching someone who tried to bully. You have to tear down their own monument to arrogance, piece by concrete piece. If you enjoyed this story, you won't believe what happened when the new, much more nervous HOA tried to propose a lake viewing fee. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next chapter. Thanks for watching.